These 7 levels of communication occur between birth and approximately 2 years of age in the typically developing child. We've been using this sequence for a number of years now, and it continues to accommodate the various populations of children and adults we have worked with who have severe communication impairments. We will discuss these 7 levels rather thoroughly now because they show how pre-symbolic communication fits into a logical progression of communication skill development that applies to individuals with and without disabilities. The first level is pre-intentional or reactive behavior. At this stage, the child does not have voluntary control over most of her behaviors. Nevertheless, parents and other caregivers view those behaviors as being very expressive, and they are able to interpret from those behaviors the child's general state of comfort or discomfort, and to decide whether the child is hungry or sleepy, and so on. The second level involves intentional behavior. Now the child has control over some of his fine and gross motor movements. He can purposefully make a movement or whine or turn his head. But he does not yet realize, if I fuss like this, Mom is going to come running right over with my bottle. So his behavior is not yet intentionally communicative. He may be able to swat at the mobile over his crib, but he doesn't know how to let Mom know that he wants her to jiggle it for him. Of course, Mom and Dad are going to continue to interpret his behaviors as being communicative. Now we make a huge leap between level 2 and level 3 because at level 3 we move into intentional communication. At this level, the child communicates through what we call non-conventional pre-symbolic behaviors. These are gestures and body movements and vocalizations and facial expressions. We call them non-conventional because they generally require quite a bit of contact between the sender and the receiver, or between the sender and the topic. Therefore, they're not particularly socially acceptable, and they tend to drop out as we mature. At level 4, those non-conventional behaviors are replaced with what we call conventional pre-symbolic behaviors. These behaviors still don't involve any sort of symbol system. They include gestures such as pointing, nodding, and shaking the head, shrugging the shoulders, or waving goodbye. These are behaviors that we continue to use throughout our life to augment our speech, or whatever symbolic system we end up using. It's important to note that people without sight may not use many conventional gestures, since some of these gestures, such as pointing, can't be used meaningfully without sight. We'll skip now to level 6, which is where the typically developing infant will go following level 4. At this stage, abstract symbol use begins, generally in the form of spoken words that are used one at a time. The child is learning to use one new word at a time, but is not stringing them together. The spoken words are symbols because they stand for something else. They are abstract because they bear no physical similarity to whatever it is they represent. Other abstract symbols include printed words, manual signs, brailled words, and abstract graphic systems such as bliss symbols. Finally, at level 7, the child starts combining those abstract symbols in lawful ways in 2- and 3-symbol utterances, with the understanding that it makes a difference what order you put them in. The child understands that if you put them in one order, you may mean one thing, but if you reverse that order, you may mean something different. Let's go back now to level 5. Level 5 involves the use of what we call concrete symbols to communicate. Concrete symbols are symbols that have some sort of physical relationship with what they are representing, or their referent. In the typically developing child, there are some concrete symbols that are used, and they take the form of iconic gestures. Gestures like patting a chair to tell Mom to sit down, or making a bouncing motion with your hand to indicate a ball. There are also some sound-based iconic gestures, such as making a kissing sound to ask for a kiss. The meaning of these symbols is always very clear because there is an obvious physical relationship between the symbol and the referent. In the typical child, these kinds of concrete symbolic behaviors are scattered in among levels 3, 4, and 6, so they don't appear as a separate stage. But for our purposes, this level has become extremely important and often presents itself as a distinct level of development. Tangible symbols are a type of concrete symbol. So when we talk about tangible symbols, we are talking about this level of development.